Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because, well, you want to get smart fast on something interesting, right? Without getting totally lost in the weeds.
Ah,
So today, that something is maybe an unexpected connection. We're looking at the design legend Jony Ive and, well, the world of teaching,
yeah.
especially now with AI coming into the classroom.
Exactly. It sounds a bit strange, maybe. But we've got this really compelling article that basically uses Ives' design thinking. The guy behind the look and feel of so many Apple products.
Right, the iconic stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it uses his principles as this new lens to look at AI in education. And honestly, the insights are pretty surprising.
And Jony Ive, for anyone needing a quick refresher, he wasn't just about making things look good. He had this deep belief that creation should really mean something. His phrase was, move the species on.
That big ambition.
Huge. And what's fascinating, and what we're going to explore, is how that ambition, that drive for, meaningful creation actually resonates with what educators try to do every single day.
It really does. So we've got an interview with Ive and this article that makes the specific link to AI in education. That article is really our main guide today.
Okay, so where do we start unpacking this? What's the foundation here?
Well, let's go back to an early moment for Ive. He talks about seeing an original Mac and having this, epiphany. He realized that what we make stands testament to who we are.
Hmm. So our creations are basically reflections of our values, what we care about.
Pretty much, yeah. And he made this really sharp distinction, didn't he, between products just made to, hit a certain price versus those that genuinely try to, as he said, move the species on.
It's about the intention behind it all.
Absolutely. And the article we're focusing on picks right up on that. It argues that, look, if you want truly impactful innovation in education, especially with AI, you need that same kind of deep conviction, that real care.
It can't just be novelty for novelty's sake.
No, it's got to be about genuinely making things better. It echoes Ives' whole idea of sincerely elevate the species.
Okay, so that leads to something, maybe unexpected again, joy. I've apparently felt that joy and humor has been missing in tech. That's quite a statement from him.
It really is. And his reasoning is fascinating. He believed that the creator's state of mind, how they feel during the process, actually gets sort of embedded in the final thing.
So anxiety leads to anxious products.
And hope and joy lead to, well, hopeful and joyful ones. That was his take.
And the article connects this straight to education and AI. It makes the point that, yeah, we focus a lot on test scores, on measurable results.
Of course.
But the actual joys of creating, of learning, of teaching, that's incredibly valuable, even if, you can't easily measure it.
Absolutely. Which ties perfectly into another big Ive theme,
Mm-hmm.
the immeasurable stuff,
Yeah.
and this idea of care.
Ah, the famous Apple unboxing experience.
Exactly, that feeling that someone obsessed over every little detail. I've argued that not everything of value can be easily measured, and that feeling of care is a prime example. You just know it.
He even cared about how the inside of the machines looked, parts nobody would ever see.
Right, because for him, that level of dedication, that care, was intrinsic. It was about the integrity of the thing itself, and he felt people could sort of sense that.
So how does the article translate that to AI in education?
Well, it draws a really smart parallel. Just like you can feel the care in a well-designed product, the argument is that students can feel it too when AI is integrated thoughtfully. It creates a more engaging, maybe even joyful learning experience because it feels intentional, not just like technology slapped on top.
Okay, this is really interesting. So let's make it concrete. How can teachers, educators, actually use these IVE principles when they're thinking about AI in their classrooms? The article gives some pointers, right? Starting with mindset.
Yeah, mindset's key. The article links Ives' whole move the species on, drive directly to cultivating that kind of innovative, forward-looking mindset in students using AI. It even mentions the wetware problem.
The idea that we are the bottleneck, our thinking.
Exactly. So encouraging students to see AI not as just a tool, but as like a personal jetpack. That's the quote they use. It's about fostering that excitement for what's possible.
I love that personal jetpack image. It really shifts the perspective. And that seems connected to the next idea in the article, something about appropriate novelty. How does that fit with Ive, who is so focused on purpose?
Well, I wasn't just about making things different. He was about making them better in a meaningful way, right?
Yeah.
Understanding the constraints, the purpose. So the article suggests guiding students using AI towards that appropriate novelty.
Meaning?
Meaning work that's innovative, sure, but it's also clearly connected to the learning goals. It shows real understanding, not just, hitting generate and getting something flashy but random. It's novelty with purpose.
Like Ive's designs.
Right.
Got it. And back to joy again, the article stresses recognizing that.
Definitely. Remembering Ive's point about joy being missing in tech, the article really champions creating space for, like, playful experimentation in the classroom with AI.
So let students have fun with it.
Yeah, because when they find that genuine satisfaction, that spark of joy in using AI to create something cool or solve a problem, that's powerful intrinsic motivation. And that's something I've, implicitly understood the value of.
Okay, and the article even draws parallels with Ive's team principles, applying them to the classroom. That sounds fascinating.
It is. One of the first things is setting up clear values and a purpose for using AI. Just like I've had core principles for his design team, teachers can establish why and how AI fits into their classroom's learning goals, ethically, responsibly.
Setting the ground rules, the why, makes sense. What else?
Focusing on meaningful innovation, not just, the novelty factor we mentioned. Pushing students to use AI to tackle real things. Create solutions that actually matter, not just generate text for the sake of it.
Using the jetpack to actually go somewhere important.
Exactly. Then there's the idea that care is palpable, even in how students write prompts or refine AI outputs, encouraging that meticulousness, that attention to detail.
So it's not just about the end result, but the process of interacting with the AI.
Right. And cultivating joy and humor. Making the classroom a place where it's okay to experiment, to maybe mess up, especially with new tech, like Ive's teams, which were known for being collaborative and apparently pretty fun.
Creating psychological safety for trying new things. Crucial.
Absolutely. And valuing the immeasurable stuff, creativity, engagement. Just like I value the intangible feel of a product, educators should recognize how AI might spark creativity or deeper thinking in ways that aren't easily captured on a test.
Again, back to that joy and intrinsic motivation.
Yep. And fostering trust and care within the classroom team, making it a supportive space where students feel okay sharing AI-assisted ideas or experiments, like Ive's close-knit design groups.
Building that community.
And finally, a really important one, championing listening and teaching students to distinguish between what the AI generates and their own informed thinking. Critical evaluation.
Yeah, that's huge. Don't just accept the output, interrogate it, build on it, form your own opinion. Vital skills.
Absolutely vital.
Now, stepping back for a second, that interview with Ive, it was at a conference for financial tech, right? Stripe. It seems miles away from design or education.
It does on the surface. But his answer to why a company like Stripe should care about design is, well, very Ive. He basically said that caring for others through your work isn't optional. It's an obligation, a responsibility.
Regardless of the field.
Regardless, he made this point that work takes up so much of our lives. And to do it without real care, without trying to make things genuinely better for people, well, it diminishes not just the work, but ourselves too.
Wow. Okay, so pulling all these threads together, this deep dive really shows how Jony Ive's whole philosophy, this focus on moving the species on, the absolute importance of joy and care, thinking deeply about the process, it actually offers some really valuable lessons for educators today, especially navigating AI.
It really does. It highlights how those things that are hard to measure, creativity, engagement, joy, that feeling of care, the things I've obsessed over in products, are just as critical, maybe even more so, in the classroom.
So it leaves a pretty big question for you, the listener, to think about. How can you, in whatever you do, maybe you are a teacher, maybe you're in a totally different field, how can you intentionally bring more of that Ive-like joy and care into your work?
Yeah, and how can you empower others around you to create with that kind of purpose?
And maybe what are the unseen insides of your work? The parts no one necessarily sees, but that deserve that meticulous care because it reflects your values.
It really pushes you to think about that connection between thoughtful design, intentional practice, and just doing good work, whatever that looks like for you in this, rapidly changing world.
Definitely. A good reminder that sometimes looking at familiar problems through a really unexpected lens, like Ive's design principles for teaching, can unlock some genuinely fresh thinking.